Well, good morning and welcome to our UU Holden Sunday Service online edition from the Unitarian Parlor in Holden, Maine. This is the first Sunday of Advent, and as you've noticed, we've already switched out our decorations for the season. Thank you for joining us and spending part of your day right here. We light the chalice today for the first Sunday of Advent. Even tiny lights help out this time of year as the days are shortening. And we have our Advent wreath here this year for the Advent services. And we're going to light first candle for today. And we're lighting the candle for contemplation, or to contemplate, which is our topic for today. And to contemplate is to reflect and to open oneself to what is new and unexpected. Also, something we're going to be doing during Advent is sharing a Christmas tree ornament from the Hutchinson Row Home Christmas Tree Decoration collection. And the first one that I brought in is this pink flamingo. And I know this is a little unusual to have on a northern Maine Christmas tree, but I just love the color, and this has also become our cat's favorite ornament. I think it has something to do with the tail. And as I was getting the box out looking for the flamingo and decorations for today's service, the cat was right there. And when I turned around, she was knocking the flamingo around on the floor. So there you have it. So we'll bring in a different ornament each week. Special music today are several harp duets by Leigh, Griffith, and Dale Holden that were recorded at Leigh Griffith's art studio on Court Street. And the first one is My Life Goes On in Endless Song. our moment of centering silence, let us create space to simply be, to breathe, to feel, to contemplate. Opening words this morning are by poet James Broughton. Forsake your dedication to predicament and discord. Break the tradition of rivalry and curse. Quick, while there's time, uproot hostility. Claim your humanity. Insist on brotherhood and sisterhood. Open your fists into embraces. Open your arm lengths into encircling love. Remove every roadblock to the peaceable kingdom. Outnumber the hawks. Outdistance the angels. Quick, while there's time. As is our custom, let us light candles, real and virtual, for the concerns and joys on our heart. This first candle is concern, again, for the rising in COVID cases here in Holden. Over 20 cases confirmed this past weekend. So please practice, vigilance, best practices, masks to protect your neighbor, your community, and yourself. And this is a candle for the homeless during these cold times. And also a candle for those who have food insecurities this time of year. Large demand on food pantries. Anything else, Ben, you want to add today?
Just for it's the holiday season, just a remembrance of the friends that family some of us might not have around this year.
And a silent candle for unspoken prayers for those who are upon our hearts this weekend and during the holidays. And let us use this space to just have your prayers and your concerns held and to put out positive energy for the best in our world, around us, for ourselves, for our neighbors in this season of the year. As the joy or the sorrow of one is shared by all, may our hearts be as one on this day. For those concerns and those names mentioned this morning, we hold them in the light of love and compassion. May our group energy benefit all beings far and wide, and may our own minds be renewed and restored to a positive and healing state. Blessed are we all on this day. Amen, and blessed be. For special music, we have a medley, The Lone Wild Bird and Lady of the Seasons, which Leigh will be singing on.
of time's progression, stand with us when we engage, hands and hearts to end oppression, writing history's fairer page. Hold us in your steady mercy, Lady of the turning age.
It always seems too early when the first Sunday of Advent comes in November. We haven't even finished the turkey leftovers yet from Thanksgiving yet. But here we are, another Advent season, and this year it's hard to know exactly how to approach it. COVID-19 and the coronavirus pandemic has placed a large asterisk next to the year 2020. And Advent is no different. Normally, Advent is a season of reflection, anticipation, and waiting for Christmas Day, and celebrating the birth of the Christ child. But this is not a normal year. So, what might be a productive way to spend our time between now and Christmas in these never-before-seen times? The title of today's talk is Starbucks Cathedral, and is based on a poem I wrote years ago, inspired by a trip I took to Portland on the day after Thanksgiving, back in the early 90s, which now sounds like a long time ago, in the last century. We used to joke back in those days that there was a Starbucks on every corner in New York City, and the old Portland could still boast that they still didn't have one. Well, that soon changed thereafter, but I can still remember when they didn't. Just so you know, I have nothing against Starbucks. I check out every cafe and diner I come across to see if I can get a decent cup of coffee, as many people can attest. So here's the title slide. So here's the title slide for our talk today, Starbucks Cathedral. And the image is our portafilter from the espresso machine at the Cup Cafe, sitting in an old Holden Trust Company ashtray we found at the church that we now use to tamp our coffee grounds. Feel the buzz. This is the easily recognized logo of Starbucks, and I took this photo in the entrance to the Starbucks in Bangor. I liked the reflections and the lighting in the plate glass window, and if you look closely, you can see neon lighting from stores in the outside parking lot. This is a profile shot of the same illuminated logo and more reflections. So for inspiration, in my attempt to find a topic for the first Sunday of Advent, I went to the filing cabinet in my office, not for something inside the filing cabinet, but for what might be stuck on the outside of it. My metal filing cabinet has become a great magnet collector and place to adhere interesting/inspiring material. And zooming in, we're getting a little closer to what I'm looking for. And there it is. Contemplate. I keep this little magnet on my filing cabinet to remind me to pause once in a while, especially when I get busy or distracted, to pause and reflect on what is going on, to not just let my mind go on thinking and automatic and unthinking manner, but to contemplate in an unhurried and unharried mode. In contemplative spirituality, values such as solitude, silence, recollection, and clear awareness are cultivated. Advent provides an ideal block of time to pursue such practices. To contemplate is to think, but it's thinking with space. It's thinking, but not overthinking. It's thinking, but allowing plenty of room in between the thoughts for something else to shift and move. So I took this trip to Portland the day after Thanksgiving, and what I remember most about the trip is how damn cold it was. It was one of those days in the low 30s, wisps of snow in the air, a stone gray, no color day with just enough of a breeze to cut right through you. I arrived in Portland around 10 a.m. and started looking for a place to eat breakfast and get a hot cup of coffee, of course. I found myself on the waterfront in the old port and spotted a diner on the Custom House Wharf in the working part of a port in the fish market district. It was called the Porthole, established in 1929 and still there, though it looked a little worn out. I did not see any tourists in sight. Here is the vintage sign at the front entrance. And this is what the pier looked like in the 1990s. There was a comedy club, the Comedy Connection, located right next to it. And here's the new Porthole logo. It's made a strong comeback in the last 10 years, featuring Maine seafood, local beer, live music, and is still one of the best breakfasts in Portland. This is the front counter and classic interior of a porthole. And here we have the dockside pier of a porthole with outside seating and concert space. And a parting shot of one of my favorite diners in the state of Maine, the Porthole. I knew that hanging out at the Porthole for breakfast would be one of my few respites from the cold and my hours of wandering around the old port on this frigid day in November. And I was right. I had the collar turned up on my long wool coat and a warm knit hat with my hands stuck in my pockets, but it was cold. On a day like that, you are aware of the elements, the cold, air movement, icy surfaces, the feel of your own exposed skin. These are all attributes that lead to contemplation. You are alone in a city. You are mindful of your body, its hunger, its sensations, its surrounding environment, and your mind is taking all of it in. The street musicians, the holiday shoppers, brightly colored lights and decorations. Up on Congress Street, I talked to a few homeless men, and as we stood in the cold by a hot air vent, they talked about Portland being a great city, but it was not a good city in the cold, and it was time to head south. I went through many cups of coffee that day, standing in doorways, and I ducked into a store, trying to look like a shopper, though all I really wanted to do was warm up. The cold keeps your mind sharp and your body moving. And of course, there's something exciting about exploring something new. Our mind is open at times like that, when something new can come into being. All of that to set up a poem, that I'm about to read, Starbucks Cathedral. The bitter November wind blew a crumpled paper cup along the sidewalk and a slender, wool-coated woman into the cathedral. Cold stone prayers in a midday empty church. The petitioner kneels unattended by clergy or God. Candles watch and consume the dark corners of a mind and the neglect of accumulated years. Only the quiet, only the subscription of personal pain to keep her coming back without comment. The holy apostles on the wall stare into the distance, and they do not see the tiny Jesus climb in to the slender lady's purse and hide next to the lipstick. She clutches her purse to her breast as if it is a most precious thing, says a final prayer, and heads out onto the streets of the Holy See. So the name of the poem comes from the crumpled cup blowing along the sidewalk in the opening line. It was probably a Starbucks cup, since there's a Starbucks on almost every corner in New York City. I've always been fascinated by large cathedrals in American cities, unlocked and open to anyone to find sanctuary in the middle of the day or just to get warm. But the images of this poem are not warm, but desolate and gray. I feel the experience of many is a struggle with doubt, loneliness, and misunderstanding, even in the best of times, let alone the worst. The yearnings of a heart are oftentimes unattended to and unheard. Sometimes it's hard to even hear ourselves. Religion is an attempt to speak what we have not spoken, to see what we have not yet seen, to be what we have not yet become. In the Gospels, the 12 disciples were often slow-witted and lagged well behind the life-changing teachings of Jesus. In this poem, the holy apostles on the wall are staring blankly into the distance, and once again they miss it. They do not notice the tiny Jesus climbing into the lady's purse and hide next to the lipstick. This is the high point of the poem, even though the lady does not realize it yet, and who knows how long it might be for her to do so. The tiny Jesus is right there in her purse. Contemplate that. What is that about? Well, I don't want to say too much, so I'll leave that up to you. During Advent, we contemplate the birth of the Christ child within us. What would those enlightened characteristics be like? Contemplate that. Think a little. Leave a little space. Think a little more. Or not. Nurture a creative spaciousness that can hold what it is that you need held. Allow whatever it is that needs to happen on its own timetable and in its own way. Especially in 2020, when nothing is happening the way it's supposed to. Put an asterisk beside everything. Wait and see what is next. We have not been here before. Sit back and contemplate that. Peace to each of you in this Advent season. May our paths lead us to Christmas night in the days ahead. May our spirits be renewed and our resolve strengthened as we meet the challenges of the days ahead. We extinguish our chalice only until we gather again to reignite the flame that burns within and among us in all that we do as fellow travelers in this world of cold and beauty. The postlude is aptly titled "In the Bleak Midwinter." Thank you all for joining us for today's UU Holden Sunday service. Like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Practice kindness, keep your attitude positive, and look out for those who are having a difficult time. Have a good week, everyone. I want to thank Ben for doing our camera work for us today. We'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your day.